Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. It is now June. I've mentioned this a few times now, but June is a little bit of a slow month on the college sports calendar. And so what we did last year, college hoops off-season grades, kind of season ends, looking back on everything that individual teams have done, portal, recruiting, who they've retained, who they've lost, whatever, and really using it as a nice way to put a bow on the off-season, look ahead to next season. And with the NBA draft deadline behind us, this feels like a great time to start. We'll do all the big programs in the coming weeks, Kentucky and UConn and Indiana and Arkansas and BYU, on and on. If you missed it, we actually did start the series earlier this week with the Florida Gators defending champs. Well, today it is time to continue the series. By the way, we'll have a special tab just for these updates on YouTube if you kind of want to follow them in real time, or if you miss one or two, whatever. Bottom line, we did Florida. Today, it is time to talk about the Louisville Cardinals. Year one was unbelievable under Pat Kelsey. I was blown away. Year two, though, they are officially a problem in the ACC. So let's go ahead and dive in. First of all, listen, I know this is an off-season grade. It's a look ahead to next year. We got to spend half a second talking about this past season. I thought Pat Kelsey was, I knew he was good. I thought he'd be very good. I did not think he would do what he did this first season at Louisville, okay? First off, they dealt with a million injuries to start the season. Basically, didn't have a front court for a lot of December into January. But January ACC play starts. They enter the top 25 mid-January and essentially never really looked back. Overall, 27-8, okay, is one thing. But on top of that, 18-2, tied for second place in the ACC, and you finished second in the ACC tournament, runners up to Duke. But I think what was most impressive, even more than just the wins on a piece of paper, 27 wins, 18 in the ACC conference tournament championship game, it was the fact that essentially, even in a bad ACC, 18-2 with one of the losses coming to Duke means that you basically did not have a single bad night in a not very good conference. And I think there is something to that. They showed up every single night. They had one kind of weird game against Georgia Tech. But other than that, they played some teams that they were supposed to beat. They showed up every night. They beat them. They get to the NCAA tournament. Louisville fans, we're going to look ahead to this year. You got screwed playing in that 8-9 game. But I still think that overall it was a successful first year with Pat Kelsey. And I'm here to tell you, it is going to be a monster year two. Really excited about them. First of all, before we can look ahead, you got to look at what they lost. And I will say, Louisville did lose quite a bit off last year's team. The two key players that I thought really kind of came to Louisville out of the transfer portal, they ended up being Louisville's two leading scorers, Terrence Edwards Jr. from James Madison, Chucky Hepburn from Wisconsin, Terrence Edwards finished averaging 17 points per game. Chucky Hepburn, 16 points, 3 rebounds, close to 6 assists per game. I know by the end of the season, Chucky Hepburn was a fan favorite. Bottom line is both of those guys were fifth-year seniors coming in. You knew you were going to lose them. It happens. That's how graduation works. It's how eligibility clock works. So you lose those two. Rain Smith, a player who came with Pat Kelsey from Charleston, another guy that I was just way better than I thought he would be. 13 points per game, 38% three-point shooting for him. He graduates. And I would say this, a couple other graduations at Boubacar Traore. The only loss that, in my opinion, was somewhat disappointing was James Scott, sophomore forward, yet another player who followed Pat Kelsey from Charleston to Louisville. But ultimately, when Kashawn Pryor ended up announcing his return, he was a player we weren't really sure if he was going to get another year of eligibility. There wasn't really a spot for James Scott. James Scott played most of the minutes that Pryor played, that Pryor would have played if he wasn't injured. So you were disappointed to see him go, but you understood the situation. And I didn't get the sense that it was any sort of bad situation. It was just one of those deals where a guy got a bunch of minutes because one guy got hurt. The guy who got hurt coming back is back. And now it's like you want an opportunity to keep playing. So James Scott ends up transferring to Ole Miss. But that is who Louisville has lost. But now it is time to look ahead to who they have coming in, because this roster is awesome. Okay, so first of all, In terms of returnees, Javon Hadley to me is just a really, really, really fun player, really cool player to kind of watch his process kind of unfold. Started his career at Colorado, comes to Louisville, 12 points per game, 7 rebounds, 38% three-point shooting. Now, he didn't shoot a ton of threes this past season, but it doesn't change the fact that he is an impact player. You know, I think the cliche term junkyard dog kind of gets overplayed from time to time. I get it. But that's kind of what he is. He's kind of a player that, plays hard, is a little bit undersized, leaves it all on the floor. You can see why he quickly became a fan favorite. Well, he was one of those JUCO kids that got the extra year of eligibility, so he is back. Pryor is back in the front court, as I mentioned, was averaging 12 points per game before the injury happened, is a stretch five-man that can hit threes. He was actually playing really well. Unfortunately, he did suffer an ACL injury in the Bahamas. Good news is he is back. He is healthy. And then on top of those two guys, two other guys that I think are very intriguing players for this season ahead. The first one that we did not mention previously, a guy that I'm actually really excited to watch, Kobe Rogers, yet another player who came with Pat Kelsey. I saw an interview with, I think it was Chucky Hepburn, where he said, Kobe Rogers is a dude that you guys do not know that you need to learn about. And then Connie Roos, a player that came in wing, was Pat Kelsey's first high school commitment a year ago. I thought he played really well in limited minutes. I know he, quote unquote, only averaged 3 points and 3 rebounds per game, but he showed up every night. I think he is the type of player who can make a sophomore leap. I think he's one of those players who could be one of the best players in the ACC going into this year, or one of the most improved players is probably the right way to say it. So 4 kind of interesting returnees. But now we got to talk about the offseason. Now we got to talk about the additions. And I'll say this, even before the offseason started, the big addition that caught everybody's attention, Louisville fans, you know where you were early January. It might have been January 1st, like New Year's Day. But Mikel Brown Jr., 5-star, he ends up being a McDonald's All-American. He commits to Louisville in the middle of a game. Apparently, I was going back to look because I forgot all the details. I think he probably quietly committed and signed in the early period because Pat Kelsey was talking about the commitment after the game. But I just bring it up because this is the type of high-level recruit that you simply have not had in a long, long time. I've shared the stat. I think he is the highest-rated recruit since Samardo Samuels, if you remember that name, probably from about 15 or so years ago. So Mikel Brown Jr. commits. You get a couple international players committed. The big name there is Sanada Fru. I hope I said that name right, from Germany. He's really one of the best international players coming in, and a player that I think probably isn't being talked about enough by people outside of that Louisville fan base, because he is a guy with NBA upside that I think Pat Kelsey and that staff are excited. And those are the freshmen, a couple other international players as well. But what we got to do now, we got to go ahead and talk about the transfers, because Pat Kelsey went on a tear when the transfer portal opened. Okay, so listen, portal opens the week after the NCAA tournament begins. So the round of, it gets down to 16 teams, transfer portal opens. And listen, I know the term all gas, no brakes is kind of thrown around a little too often in the world of sports right now, but Pat Kelsey was all gas, no freaking brakes when that portal opened, okay? Ryan Conwell was the first big name to commit. Grew up a Louisville fan, thought it was really cool, kind of, after he committed, there were pictures of him, and I believe it was his grandfather outside the Yum Center when he was a kid watching games, averaged 16.5 points per game at Xavier. I've said it many times. This kid was like 6'6" instead of 6'4". He'd be in the NBA right now, but he is a very good college basketball player. Started his career at Indiana State, played for Sean Miller last year at Xavier, was all Big East last year, and I think he could be a star, big all-ACC first-team type guy. Then he had Adrian Woolley. I've mentioned his story as well. 18 points per game as a freshman at Kennesaw State, Conference USA Freshman of the Year, 42% from three, a bunch of assists. He's a guy that, to me, has NBA upside long-term. I think the thing you need to know about him is this. He's originally from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. When he entered the portal, I am here to tell you that folks at Alabama thought he was going to be a member of the Crimson Tide. So the fact that Pat Kelsey gets the job done, it speaks to me that was a great recruiting pitch, that they got that deal done before he could commit to Alabama. And then finally, Isaac McNeely, player that Louisville fans are very familiar with on an otherwise forgettable Virginia team, averaged 14 points per game, led the ACC, 42% shooting from three. What's important to note, you can see it on the screen. Thank you, producer Matt. Took 152 threes, okay? And so I just bring it up because, sometimes a dude shoots 42, 43%, and you sit there and say, well, I mean, how many did he take? Because shoot 42%, if you only take 30 on the season, that's a lot different than a dude who took about as many three-pointers as anybody in college basketball. I've said it many times. I don't think it's hyperbole to say that he is one of the best three-point shooters. He was probably, I would say, the best three-point shooter in the portal. He is now a Louisville Cardinal. So you have those three key additions in the portal with several high-profile freshmen, including Mikal Brown Jr., and then beyond that, a couple of very nice pieces with Javon Hadley, with Pryor coming back from that knee injury. And this is a really, really, really fun team. Now, before we get to the actual look ahead and grade itself, we are starting to integrate the scheduling notes into these offseason grades. Now, scheduling stuff is coming out every single day, so it's always subject to change. Louisville fans, if you have a marquee game added to your schedule after you see this, don't get mad at me. We're doing this in real time. But the out-of-conference games that I think of note are Kentucky, the early Kentucky game. No one has really given the definitive answer as to why it's November 11th. Mark Pope blamed Pat Kelsey. I don't think it's Pat Kelsey's fault, but they're playing November 11th. Then back-to-back Saturdays, Indiana and Indianapolis. You start up the old school rivalry with Memphis again in the Yum Center. I believe that's a 4-year series. I think the other, by the way, Tennessee is on the schedule too. Producer Matt, I forgot to get that to you. Not your fault at all. Totally on me. Forgot to mention that. But I bring it up because I think that one of the scheduling notes that really caught my attention was that Duke is a common opponent in the ACC and they play them twice. Why is that important? So the ACC has changed its scheduling model, okay? So the ACC, obviously with now what do they have? 18 teams, I think it is. I can't even keep up. But they had 20 league games a year ago. Everybody played everybody else. You had a couple teams that you would play twice, and they have gone ahead and changed that scheduling model, okay? So in their place, you play two teams. I'm sorry if this is confusing, but I'm just trying to do this in real time. You play two teams twice. You play everybody else once, except for one team that you do not play at all, okay? I hope that makes sense. Two teams twice, one team you play, one team you don't play at all, and then two teams you play twice. Why I'm bringing that up, why it's important to me. The ACC announced that Duke will play both Carolina twice, but also Louisville twice as well. Why is that important? Well, you're obviously not going to get rid of Duke, Carolina. That's a home and home that will be there. As long as there's an ACC, we're going to have Duke and Carolina home and home every year. But what I would also say is the fact that the ACC felt the need to add Louisville as the home and home with Duke, it means that the ACC and its TV partners, ESPN, see Louisville officially as a big-time opponent that they want on the schedule twice for the Duke Blue Devils. Obviously, Duke is a huge draw. You want to put together the most compelling TV schedule you can. The fact that you have decided that Louisville is the other team that Duke plays twice seems to me to think that that ESPN and the ACC are excited about Louisville and maybe, frankly, as excited as I am. Overall, a couple last thoughts, and we'll give a grade. One, I was thinking about this. So Pat Kelsey and his teams like to shoot a ton of threes. They shot a ton last year. I only say it because, in my opinion, this team might actually be even better built to play the way that Pat Kelsey wants to play in 2025, 2026 than they were in 2024, 2025, which is important because, again, they won 27 games last year and finished second in the ACC. So I love the way they're built. I love the depth in the backcourt. I love even the fact that you have this five-star in Mikal Brown Jr., but you've brought in some older guys, so not too much is on his plate. And I like the balance between high upside freshmen with several key returnees who know the program, know the expectations, and then also that very, very, very impressive portal class. So with that, let's go ahead and hand out a grade. I'll say this, Florida last week or the last one that we did, last offseason grade that we did, we gave Florida an A. And I said it's really hard to pick apart Florida's offseason in any sort of negative way, except to say they kind of lost one guy that in theory you would have liked to see them have back. But even that guy, in their case, it was Denzel Aberdeen. You understood why he left. And it's kind of the same with Louisville. You would have loved to have James Scott stay, but it just probably wasn't realistic given everybody else coming back. So when you put that aside, you got the portal guys you wanted. You got a 5-star freshman. You got some key returnees. I am going to give Louisville an A. We updated our top 25 earlier this week. I have Louisville as the highest ranked ACC team. I will have Louisville, at least as of now in June, as my preseason ACC champion. Love what Pat Kelsey has done. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, is this roster loaded. Do me a quick favor. If you're not subscribed, Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe. Apple, Spotify on podcast, YouTube right here. Subscribe. Listen, I made the promise at the Final Four. I said, we do not slow down when the offseason ends. We're basically giving you content every single day. These off-season grades will get you through June before we get to July, media days, and football. So make sure to subscribe to the podcast. Make sure to subscribe to YouTube. And we will be back with our next off-season grade here in the next day or so.